How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about the Steam Deck and other gaming handhelds. In today's video, I've got three topics to cover as usual. The first one is that Valve is facing a lawsuit that might be pretty detrimental to them in the future. The second one is we are finally getting one of the most requested Steam Deck features, and I am excited about it. And third, one of the biggest games coming out this year is being Steam Deck optimized, and I think you're going to be happy to hear what game it is. Before I jump into it all, I'd love to have a silver play button for this channel. 80% of the people watching don't subscribe, so if you're one of those people, help me out by subscribing and setting your notifications to all. And if you really want to help me out, watch the videos right when they go up. For some reason, that makes them do better in the long run. I don't really get it. But let's jump into this first news story here. These lawsuits that are going around the games industry right now are getting crazy. And this lawsuit that Valve is facing is very similar to one that Sony is facing. And basically what the whole impetus of these lawsuits are is that a big consumer protection group gets together and says, hey, we do not like that these companies have a console like the PlayStation 5 that has one storefront. So when you buy games on the PS5, you only have one option, which is the PlayStation Store. Now they're going after Steam on the PC platform and saying they're basically running a monopoly. But on top of that, they're shutting out other storefronts from really achieving success in the market. And once again, I've got to side with the company here. And I know that's always a little weird, but I just think these lawsuits are bogus. So let's break it down. So basically the first thing they're coming after is the fact that Steam charges developers and publishers 30% of the revenue that they make on the storefront. And that's a weird one to go after them for, if you ask me, because there's like a million other storefronts available on PC. You've got the Ubisoft Play Store, you've got the Epic Game Store. There's all these other launchers that have come out, like the EA Store when they had Origin. You couldn't just buy EA games on there. They were selling other publishers' games. And the reason that these things never really take off is because the consumers decided that Valve and their storefront offering was just the best way to buy games. So there's not really a competitive factor there, but another thing that this lawsuit is citing is the fact that Valve apparently has a sale parity clause that they sign with these publishers. So like if a game is going to go on sale on the Ubisoft Play Store for $30, Valve expects Ubisoft to also put that game on sale for $30 on Steam, which, you know, you could read that one as being a little slimy, but really I don't care all that much because, again, the main place I'm always going to buy PC games as a consumer is Steam. Another thing they're coming after them for, though, is region locking. So I guess before you could buy game keys from other regions like, I don't know, the UK or Asia, and you could activate them on your US Steam account. And the reason to do that, like getting a game key through PlayAsia, for example, would be to get them a little bit cheaper because of currency exchange rates or other sales that those sites are running. I'm pretty sure, though, you could just make like a Japanese Steam account and then buy Japanese game keys. I know you can do that on Xbox, and it's actually a lot easier on Xbox. Like if you want to play games early, you can just set your time zone to New Zealand and they'll unlock up to like 24 hours early depending where you are in the United States. So yeah, that one's a little bogus to me as well. And I don't like advocating for this, but if you want to get games a little bit cheaper when they come out, you could go to a site like Green Man Gaming, where I go every time one of these PlayStation games gets ported over to Steam, because they'll usually be selling them for around $50 or even as low as $45. And then you get a little bit of savings on your digital game purchase. Or if you want to get really crazy with it, you can go buy game keys on G2A, which I know is bad because I guess a lot of those keys are stolen, but there's a lot of games that aren't available anymore, like Grid Autosport, for example. I wanted to play that on my Steam Deck, and literally my only option to get a Steam key was to use G2A, and it was still like $9. So there are other options out there, even going outside of this whole region locking thing, to get games a lot cheaper. The other thing all of these lawsuits seem to go after is the fact that Valve charging 30% or Sony charging 30% to publishers to sell their games on these storefronts, they basically pass that 30% off onto us. And I just don't think that's true, because this gen's a little bit different, right? Like in the PS5 ecosystem, you're basically paying $70 for games instead of $60. I don't love paying $70, but I kind of get the price increase because the last time the price increase was from the Xbox to the Xbox 360 era, where in the Xbox era, new AAA games were $50. And then when the 360 came out, they raised the price to $60. But that didn't happen during the PS4 era. They kept games at $60 all the way through the PS4 era. And then when the PS5 came out, they only raised the prices of games by $10. So it hasn't really inflated all that much over literal decades. So like if what this lawsuit was saying was true, you'd be assuming that you'd be paying 30% more for games. So when a new game like Ghost of Tsushima comes out, instead of paying $60, you'd be paying like $78 because that'd be 30% put on top. And we all know that's clearly necessarily not the case. And another thing that they fail to mention is that Steam has the best sales of any storefront pretty much out there. They even announce them way ahead of time. And if you want to play a game, but you don't want to pay full price for it, I mean, everyone knows you just put it on your wish list. And then when the next like summer sale, spring sale, autumn sale, Halloween sale, Easter sale, like there's a million different sales that are run throughout the year. The next time one of them comes up, you'll get a handy little email in your inbox that says, hey, this game that you've had on your wish list for 6 months is now on sale. And then you can go and determine if that price drop is enough for you. My classic example is Persona 5 Royal. I'm using it as an excuse not to play an over 100-hour game on my Steam Deck, but I want to pay 20 bucks for it. Every sale, it drops by a little bit more. And last time, I think it went down to like $24.99. But when it gets to 20 bucks, I'm going to buy it. I have choice as a consumer about how much I'm going to spend on a game. And all I have to do is just wait for it to be cheaper. And that's how it works on every other platform as well. But the reason this lawsuit stands out from a lot of the other lawsuits that Valve has faced in the past, which a lot of those were actually not bogus and resulted in good changes on Steam, is the fact that this lawsuit is for $843 million. Now, it's not necessarily like going to end Valve if like this lawsuit goes through and they have to pay $843 million on top of whatever legal fees they're going to have to pay for, but their market cap is around $9 billion. So this lawsuit's basically for, I'm pretty sure, a ninth of the company's total value, which is crazy because if you look back at the other lawsuits that they've lost in the past or settled outside of court, they're usually only paying out like $100 million or a few $1,000,000 at most. I'm really curious why this issue is the one that all these lawyers are kind of going for lately. They must really think that they have a good shot at taking down Sony or taking down Valve. But as far as I know, there hasn't been one of these where you're going after them for doing that 30% cut to Valve from publishers that's actually gone through and been successful. If this Sony one does complete and then is successful on the lawyer side, like they get the money that they're looking for from Sony, if I was Valve, I'd be pretty worried. But until one of these kind of completes and goes through where the company that's being sued loses, I don't really think there's too much to worry about here personally. Of course, I'm not a lawyer. Of course, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a YouTuber. I don't know what the I'm talking about here, but just reading into this, I don't really see a problem with them taking 30% of a cut from every game sale, right? Like it's not like the storefront is free to run, A, and B, they are providing a service to these developers by saying, hey, we are the biggest store on the PC platform. We're going to give you a space that you can put your games on the front page and get your game marketed to a bunch of people. And they do charge fees to get your game on the front page for sure, but it's like pennies on the dollar compared to how much they could potentially make if they just put out a good game. And the alternative really sucks, right? Like we all hate the fact that Ubisoft games like Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, it takes forever to come to Steam. I'm pretty sure that game came out in January and it's not coming to Steam until August. And then on top of that, even though you're buying it on the Steam storefront, you still have to make a Ubisoft Play account for a game that has virtually no online multiplayer at all. It has no online component whatsoever, but you have to have that extra layer of DRM where you have to make an account, sign into the Ubisoft launcher, and then of course, if Ubisoft goes ahead and updates that launcher in any way, it always breaks on the Steam Deck, and that's degrading the experience overall. So if the developers themselves are not consumer focused in any way, I don't think it's extremely fair in any way to go after Valve and say they're not being consumer focused by charging developers 30% to put their games on the storefront, right? Like it's not like they're saying, hey, every time you buy a game, it's not like sales tax, right? Like where every time you buy a game from Steam, they're going to say, hey, we're putting a 30% cut on top of that. That's going to go to us because the publisher gets the privilege to sell in the store. The publisher is the one paying that. So I don't really think me as the consumer has much to worry about there in terms of how games are being priced. There is a bigger issue though that's been happening where to get around that issue of only being able to sell games for $60 or $70, a lot of these publishers like Ubisoft, who I love talking about here on the channel, they come up with these insane editions. Like if you want everything for Star Wars Outlaws, I'm pretty sure you have to pay like $120 to get the season pass. Then you also get early access to the game and all that extra garbage. That really sucks. Xbox has their own way of doing it where if you're subscribed to Game Pass Ultimate, when a big game like Forza Horizon 5 comes out, you can pay $30 to upgrade that free copy to the Ultimate Edition and you'll get the early access and the car pass and the expansion pass and everything on top of that. I'm less worried about that because that's like, I don't know, that just seems like not that big of a deal to me, and I've done it before. Like I love the Horizon series, so when I had the option to play that game, I was planning on playing it for free with Game Pass and then just upgrading to the premium edition anyway so I could get all that content. Fortunately, I got a code from my friends at Xbox. But yeah, you know, it's weird that these companies keep getting lawsuits thrown at them like this, and as far as I know, none of them have really been successful. So yeah, it's frustrating. I've seen a lot of articles saying that this is going to be the end of Valve and everything like that. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but all this really does is take away from what they're doing, which is working on the Steam Deck, working on their new game Gridlock, working on making the Steam platform better. And I just kind of hope one of these lawsuits fails very soon so we can stop seeing these lawyers grouping people together and saying we're advocating for you, when in reality the ultimate goal is for the lawyer to get a huge payday if they end up getting $800 million or whatever from Valve. I don't know. Again, I'm a layman on this. I'm not a lawyer, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't pay full price for the vast majority of the games I play. I wait for them to go on sale and then I play them when they go on sale. I'm not one of these game reviewers, so I don't have to keep up with everything as soon as it comes out, and I love going back in the Steam library, finding old games and tinkering with them on the Steam Deck, and in most cases I can get them for like $10 or $11 if I go look at Green Man Gaming or, you know, wait for a Steam sale or something like that. So to me, not the biggest issue in the world, but if it is to you, again, as always, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. So yeah, lawsuit stuff out of the way, let's talk about this awesome feature that's coming to the Steam Deck. Finally, we are getting clip recording on Steam. This is not just for the Steam Deck, but it's for the Steam platform as a whole, and it looks like it's going to work exactly like it does on the PS5, where you can just tap the share button and it'll record the last 30 seconds or a minute of your gameplay. You can hold the share button and it'll start a 1-hour video recording, and then when it's done being recorded, you can automatically upload it to Steam, where you'll be able to download it and share it wherever you want. Now, where this comes in super handy for me is being a YouTuber. You guys probably noticed I use a lot of game trailers and console trailers and everything on this channel. It's because the recording process on the Steam Deck isn't great. The best option that I have as someone who wants to record footage is Decky Recorder, and when it works, it's awesome. You just hit start record. It doesn't seem to have any detriment to the performance of the game, maybe like a frame or two per second, but that extra overhead you get on the OLED kind of makes up for that. And then it saves the footage to your Steam Deck. You can then upload it to Google Drive or plug in an SSD and drag it over, but it never really works right. Every time the Steam client updates, every time the Steam Deck updates, it breaks that software for some reason, and sometimes it just disappears. Like, even if there's no updates or anything, I could be using Decky Recorder, and then I go into the menu where I have the Decky Loader plugin, and that plugin is just gone. And then I have to restart my whole Steam Deck, restart the game I was playing, go back and capture the gameplay. It's just a cumbersome process. If I'm playing in desktop mode, the OBS version that they have for Linux works excellently. When I used to do tutorials all the time on how to set things up on the Linux side of the Steam Deck, I would always use OBS, and even if the screen went black or the console just decided to restart, it would just save the video instead of crashing out and deleting all the footage I just recorded. But again, you can't really use OBS on the game mode, which is where I play most of my games. So Valve finally listening to us and implementing this feature that we've been asking for since the Steam Deck came out, and well before that if you're a PC gamer like I am. It's nice to see them actually listening to their community and not doing it in a ham-fisted way, because this actually leaked with screenshots and everything, and it looks like you've got a whole game DVR feature where you can scrub through your footage and clip out different parts of it. It looks like a fully featured new software for the Steam overlay, and I think the biggest reason it took so long is because they were working on that overhauled Steam overlay they released last year, because this is coming out pretty soon after that. So yeah, it's a great feature that I'm really excited to come to Steam. From what I can tell, it looks like it's already done. I'd imagine it'll show up in a Steam client update beta sooner rather than later, and then once all the kinks are ironed out, they'll then put it in an official release, and hopefully they have it ready for the Steam Deck, because that's what I think people want. They're having the ability to record your gameplay on the go, on your handheld, and YouTubers like me, you know, my friend Fan the Deck, he's gonna love this because his videos are like 90% B-roll of gameplay, and I'm sure it's a very cumbersome process recording all of that, because when you're sitting down to play some games at the end of the day, the last thing you want to do is go, okay, I got to set up the recording process, I got to get out my capture card and X, Y, and Z. Like, I'm gonna be honest, on PS Ready, I use the built-in one on the PS5 because to my eye, it doesn't look all that different once you compress the footage down on YouTube anyway from stuff you get out of like Ninja or something like that people spend thousands of dollars on to record their gameplay in the like most crisp way possible. And then the third news story I have for you guys today today is that there's a big game coming out this year that's coming to the Steam Deck optimized at launch, and that game is Path of Exile 2. I am a Diablo 4 fan. I know a lot of people don't love it because it's not as deep and fully featured as Path of Exile, but as someone who tried to get into Path of Exile 1 when they released the controller support for the Steam Deck, it runs amazing, it plays great. It is just too deep for me as someone who likes to bounce between a lot of different games, and it's hard to get back into when you stop playing it. So I know a lot of other people out there was waiting for Path of Exile 2 to come out, so it's going to be a fresh slate where I can start from the beginning and really learn the ropes and kind of commit it to memory in the same way I did with a game like Destiny 2 back when that came out like 7 years ago at this point. But obviously, with a lot of the community for Path of Exile being on the Steam Deck, that's a big burning question a lot of people have had for the developers at Grinding Gear Games, and they're being upfront and honest that they are working to make sure that when this game launches into early access later this year, it's going to be ready to play on Steam Deck. And from what limited screenshots and footage I've seen of this game running on the deck, it looks like it's going to be running pretty damn well, because a lot of developers out there love to say that their game is optimized for the Steam Deck and they played tons of hours on it, and then it comes out and it's like borderline non-functional. The best example I have of that is Remnant 2. There was a whole controversy with a lead developer saying, oh, I play so much on the Steam Deck, it runs pretty much locked 30 frames per second at a mix of medium and low settings. Then the game comes out, you're lucky if you see 30 frames per second more than 5 minutes at a time. And now, even a year later or so after that game has come out, it's still poorly optimized on PC. I have a 4090, an i9, 32 gigs of RAM, and that game stutters like a... I have no other way to put it. So when I translate it down to Steam Deck, it still doesn't run all that great. So it's extremely, extremely nice to see a company really prioritizing the Steam Deck and not being afraid to show it off beforehand. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you in today's video. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and set your notifications to all if you haven't already. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.